Alright, so I'm sure you all remember watching Naruto for the first time. You know, the Kage were held to such a high standard, and I remember seeing Hiruzen face off against Orochimaru and seeing how cool it was, you know what I mean? What happened? The Kage are not held to the standard that they once were, and that's not necessarily because of their strength, but more so the increasing threat of the opponents that they're up against in Boruto. And today we're going to be talking about exactly how strong each of the Kage are in Boruto, as well as their best feats thus far. But first, if you guys like more videos like this, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to check out the Anime-Wrld Hoodie. If you want to engage with the community more, feel free to join the server and you'll be able to talk to me personally, and let's jump straight into it. Starting off with probably the weakest, we have Chojiro. Now, in the Boruto franchise, he serves as the 6th Mizukage, and he doesn't really have a ton of feats to back him up. From what we've seen of his fighting style, he's very proficient in water release, and he uses it to make massive wave surges or blades of pure water and chakra. Now, during Shippuden, he was seen as being the 8th of the 5th Mizukage, and has some minor feats during Shippuden, like knocking Ribcage Susanoo Sasuke through a wall and slicing a Zetsu in half, but his real feats mainly come after he already becomes Mizukage. He's able to dodge some attacks from Kinshiki, very briefly, who was stated to be a threat above Kaguya. He's also able to slice through the God Tree, and he and Kurotsuchi were actually able to temporarily restrain Kinshiki as well, which is pretty crazy for characters who would otherwise be narratively much weaker than pretty much any 6th pass level character. He's also able to briefly restrain Urashiki as well, in the anime only seen using an underground reservoir of water when he and Gara were facing off against Urashiki, to the point where Urashiki decides to kind of just leave. Now, a lot of people kind of bash him for being weak Kage, and he's definitely on the weaker side when you're comparing him to the likes of like Naruto and Gara, who blatantly overshadow him. But he isn't like your average Jonin, as he's able to tussle with those Uzukis on multiple occasions. A lot of people like to bring up the fact that when he was facing off against the 7 swordsmen in his village, he seemed to be losing, and this is supposed to be a sign of him being weak, I guess. But keep in mind that he wasn't really trying, and he kind of started flexing on him towards the end with literally half a sword. So although you may not believe it at first, he's definitely more than he appears to be. Moving a little bit up the ladder, we've got Kurotsuchi. Now, in the Boruto era, she takes on the mantle of 4th Tsuchikage. She primarily utilizes earth, fire, and water release, but usually just uses her absurd strength in battle. Now, much like Chojiro, Kurotsuchi was able to restrain Kinshiki and actually seemed to do more than Chojiro, as she hits him so far that he goes flying, but was ultimately defeated, which kind of showcases her upper limits as well, so we can kind of have a better picture of exactly how strong she is. I think this portion is pretty self-explanatory, as barely anyone in the franchise besides these characters are able to compete with Otsutsuki's whatsoever. Now, she's by no means weak, but I do see how some people bring up the fact that she lost to Lord Ku, but keep in mind that Lord Ku is actually a clone of the 3rd Tsuchikage and is also proficient in particle style, which is one of the most powerful styles in the franchise, so I'll give her the pass on that one. And she was kind of caught off guard by his appearance and who he resembled, but essentially she doesn't have a ton of feats in the Boruto manga franchise, so these are what we have to go off of. But these are some pretty good feats, as they're actually indicating that she's definitely deserving of the title of Kage, because although she doesn't really have an official win in her book in the Boruto franchise, she does put up a pretty good fight every time we see her on screen. Now, as we approach the upper tier Kage in the Boruto era, we have Darui, who actually has some significant feats even pre-Kage in the Shippuden franchise to give us a better basis of his initial strength. Now, he's actually able to defeat Ginkaku and Kinkaku, which were able to defeat Tobirama way back in the day, which already should put him like a Kage tier, already, automatically. Even though Tobirama isn't the best Hokage or the strongest per se, that should definitely bring Darui up to that level, at least. On top of the fact that he's able to dodge Kinkaku's hits once he enters the version 2 cloak, he can utilize wind, water, and lightning release, but focuses on lightning to such a proficient level that he's actually able to master it and master the art of black lightning, which was taught to him by the 3rd Raikage. Now, I haven't really seen him do this, but I think he can amp his speed as well using like lightning cloaks, which we have seen multiple times. I'm probably gonna make a video on kind of explaining what lightning cloak is, but long story short, it massively amps your speed. In Boruto, he was actually among the other Kage when they face off against Momo and Kinshiki as well. And with Gara's help, he's actually able to catch up to Momo and attack him, which is something that, again, most non-6 pass level characters are not able to do, period. Now, these feats definitely put him literally above any Jonin that we've seen up to this point, with very, very few exceptions. And now we've got Gara. So, as I'm pretty sure you're all aware, Gara is towards the top of the Kage ladder. He's been Kaze Kage for a while, since the time he was a young teen, and for good reason. Not many people can keep up with him at all. Ever since his introduction, you know, against Lee. He's hardly had to try against most threats in his life, and as his sand kind of acts subconsciously to protect him at all times, you know, during the war arc, he's able to defeat an Edo version of his father, who was also Kazekage, which meant that already he was above anyone, pretty much anyone in the Sand Village, and most other villages as well. He's able to create sand tsunamis and coffins to bury his enemies with immense pressure, and his sand can even expand to the point where it covers literally his entire village. Now, he doesn't do the best against Madara, I'm not gonna lie, when he gets reanimated, because he gets overshadowed as the story progresses, but he does make up for it against his fight against Momoshiki, as besides Naruto and Sasuke, he probably does the best, and even stops transformed Momoshiki for a very short period of time before he's, you know, definitely overwhelmed, which would immediately put him above, you know, all the previous Kage. Like, for example, the ones who were able to stop Kinshiki altogether, while he stopped Momo by himself in his tracks while he was transformed, even if it were very brief. Now, obviously, at the top of the ladder, we have Naruto, to the point where it's not even really worth talking about because he scales so high. He literally had part 1 in Shippuden to kind of show how strong he is. But if you want a more in-depth video talking about it, I have a few on the channel, so definitely be sure to go check those out. Long story short, the Kages are pretty strong. If you guys like more videos like this, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.